What's up, guys? Dan here for BladeReviews.com, coming at you with a review of the Benchmade 860 Bedlam. This is the manual version of their original Bedlam 8600, which was, of course, an automatic knife, and Benchmade came out with the 860, I want to say about a year or so ago, so fairly new knife, but also fairly unique since it is kind of expensive and something of a specialty item. So I thought that since I haven't done a video in a while, I might as well start things off with a bit of a bang, and wanted to offer up this kind of special Benchmade for your consideration. So with that said, let's dive on in. I'd like to start with some quick specs. So the 860 here, it has an overall length of 9.7 inches. It's got a 3.95 inch long blade, and it weighs 7.1 ounces. So, as you can see in my hand here, it is a big knife. Definitely a big knife, and especially for Benchmade. So, you know, maybe if we're comparing this to the cold steel lineup, this is just sort of par for the course, but as far as Benchmades go, it's one of their bigger folders, and a pretty impressive piece of steel here. I would classify this one primarily as a fighting knife more than anything. Sure, you know, you could use this for a lot of things. I just happen to think, after sort of looking at it, that it would probably be best suited for the hands of a martial artist. But you know me, guys, that hasn't stopped me from really picking up anything and telling you about it. So I have carried this one for a while, but I confess, you know, I'm not a martial artist. I haven't really used this as a real weapon or anything. So my thoughts here are just going to be limited to my own knowledge, and this, you know, for some people is just going to be more of an overview than anything. So let's dive in, though. Let's take a closer look at the blade, which is really quite cool. This is a trailing point style blade, sometimes referred to as a Persian style blade. So of course, you know, it's got that kind of look to it. It reminds me of a scimitar, very ethnic looking knife, and quite cool and unique. The steel on this one is 154 cm. Benchmade uses this in a lot of their knives. I've talked about it in a lot of my reviews. It's a great all-around steel, very high quality steel. It takes a good edge. It will hold that edge for a good amount of time, and it's still fairly easy to sharpen and fairly rust and corrosion resistant, so it gets high marks all around. I do like the 154 cm. Let's take a closer look at this blade shape. You'll notice it's got a good belly to it, and it comes to a pretty fine point. Some people might be concerned about the tip on this knife. I know I would be concerned, but if you actually look at it, you know, it does have this swedge, but the tip actually, and I'm not sure how close we're able to see this here, but the tip actually begins to thicken out as you get to the very tip of it. So it does reinforce the tip a little bit if you're going to be using this for thrust cuts, stabbing, piercing, that kind of thing. So I think all in all, it's a fairly robust shape. But again, I see this more as just a fighter, not really a hard use knife, not really a tactical knife, you know, again, just sort of which would give it some sort of utilitarian aspects to it. Really, I think this is more just for fighting. So, but of course, you know, you're welcome to use this however you'd like. Just my observations. Let's take a look at the handle here, which is a fairly common sort of combination here of G10 and stainless steel, but you'll notice that the G10 has been given a very uncommon treatment to it. This is sculpted G10, which has been CNC machined, or I'm not sure if it's CNC, but it has been machined quite extensively to give you this very cool and very interesting, almost tiger stripe looking pattern to it. Really unique, and while compared to just kind of regular raw unprocessed G10, you know, this isn't going to be as grippy as that. It still offers some grip, and it just looks sweet. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you really don't see on pretty much any other knife. I mean, I'm sure some customs might have some of this kind of look, but pretty unique to the 860 here. So underneath that cool G10, you've got some black stainless steel liners here. Keep in mind, all the hardware on this knife, well, almost all of it, has been given some sort of black finishing to it, so pretty cool, adds something to the stealth factor. And these liners are pretty thick and substantial, but they have been milled out somewhat. You can see that in the back there. Not completely milled out. I believe that has something to do with the balance of this knife. The balance point is actually right about here in the second choil. So I think it might have something to do with just the characteristics of this blade, the way it handles in your hand when you are using it, especially as, you know, a martial artist or something. So I think that's why they didn't mill out all the entire handle here. I don't think they just like ran out of drill bits or something. So anyhow, let's take a closer look at the construction. You can see here it is, in fact, screw type construction. Get a nice close look at that, and on the other side. So this thing is completely screwed together so you can take it apart as needed. There is a back spacer here. It's some sort of plastic or resin, and then you've got this pommel here, this skull crusher, this non-lethal impact device, this dome checker, as a notable YouTuber has called this. So, you know, it's quite cool. It's pretty robust. I think it's you know, feels very solid in the hand, and this thing is pretty nasty. Would not want to get hit with this. So, quite cool. Let's take a look at the ergonomics here. I'll show you how this one works in hand. This is probably the more normal grip. You do have a thumb ramp with some jimping, and the jimping is also on the liners of the knife, so that's pretty good. There's, you know, plenty of traction here, I think. But really, if you're going to be using this as a fighter, I think you might want to be taking advantage of the added reach that this long handle and second choil offer, and this just really gives you, you know, some extra inches to keep you away from your attacker, enemy, whatever it is. So I think that's pretty smart, and the ergonomics and the standard grips are pretty good. You got plenty of handle here in either of these grips, so I'm quite pleased with that. You can also throw this one into a reverse grip quite easily, and it is comfortable, although I'm just kind of maneuvering it around here. It is easy to put it into the grip, and your thumb has got some extra texturing here for it to grab onto, and you can really put some power behind it, especially if you know what you're doing. So all in all, I think the ergonomics are outstanding, and that shouldn't come as too much of a shock considering that it's such a big knife. Let's talk a little bit about the pocket clip, which is a standard kind of Benchmade clip here. It's sort of a satin black, and it rides fairly low, not super low, but you know, it's a 10-inch long knife. You're not going to be able to 100% conceal something like this, I don't think so. At least as far as pocket clips and stuff like that goes. But I think it does ride pretty low. It's fairly discreet considering, you know, you've just got a little bit of a flat black thing sticking out of your pocket, and given the overall size and weight of this knife, it carries quite well. I compare it really more to a flashlight like this, Quark AA squared, rather than some of the other folding knives on the market, the large ones like, say, the Zero Tolerance 0300 series. To me, this carries much more like a flashlight, and that's a good thing. This thing, for a 7.1 ounce knife, it does carry quite well. Although, these are just my experiences. I've just been wearing a lot of shorts. I'm in Florida. For you, could be different, really. I mean, in fact, I totally expect it to be. So you may want to check one of these out in store. Oops, kind of move the camera a little bit, but you may want to check one of these out in store. Make sure it's going to work for what you want out of it if you're really considering carrying such a large knife with you on a daily basis. Okay, let's talk briefly about the deployment mechanism and the lockup here. You've got thumb studs and you've got an axis lock. Both I've found to be a winning combination here. And yeah, this deployment is super smooth. You've got some phosphor bronze bushings in there. Those are low friction washers designed to help get this blade out fast, and you've got this wicked Persian blade 100% on tap whenever you need it with just a flick of a thumb. So I think it's really cool. Deployment is excellent. Lockup is excellent too. The axis lock I've talked about at length. I think it really is a very nice lock. One of my favorites, just because it's fully ambidextrous. It's very easy to use, and it just works. You know, it's simple and it works. So haven't had any problems with any of my knives with an Axis lock. And if I ever were, I would just send it back to Benchmade, and I know they'd take care of me. So no problems with the lockup, no problems with the deployment, no real problems with this knife at all. I think it's pretty cool. You know, 7.1 ounces, it's big, it's heavy, probably not the most practical thing to carry around, but some people I know will. I've certainly had a fun time carrying this one around, and I do recommend it if you're interested in the knife and want to check it out. I think it's well made, and I think it's a high quality product, so good materials, good fit and finish. Very nice knife. Alright guys, that's the review. Thanks so much for watching. Again, this is Dan for BladeReviews.com. Let me know if you have any comments or questions. I would be happy to answer any questions, and I love hearing all your feedback. So just lay it on me, and I'll talk to you then. If not, that's cool too. I have many more reviews in store, so I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll say take care. Talk to you soon, hopefully in the form of another knife review. So until then, guys, see you later.